for joining for today's virtual information session about serving on London Health Sciences Centre's renewed Board of Directors. My name is Beth Summers. I'm a manager on LHSC's Communications and Public Engagement team. I'll be helping to moderate today's session and support the question and answer period. We're hosting today's session for community members who may be interested in applying to serve on LHSC's renewed board, as well as those who are looking to learn more before deciding whether this is the right opportunity for them. Today, you'll hear from David Mouche, LHSC Supervisor, about why LHSC is recruiting a new board, the work underway, what board service involves, who we're looking for, and how you can apply. Before I turn things over to David, I'll quickly go over how today's session will work and how you can participate this evening. Today's session will focus on a few key areas. First, we'll provide an overview of LHSC's renewal journey. We'll then walk through what board service involves, including the role of the board, responsibilities, meeting commitments, the volunteer nature of the position, and the role governance plays in supporting a strong and accountable organization. We'll also discuss who we're looking for, including the skills, experiences, perspectives, and lived experience that will help shape a strong and effective board that reflects the communities we serve. Following that, we'll review the application process, and finally, we'll move into a moderated question and answer period where we'll answer as many questions as possible this evening. Before I begin, I want to quickly explain how today's session will work. Microsoft Teams is the primary platform for asking questions. If you would like to submit a question for the moderated Q&A portion of this session, please use the Q&A feature in Teams. It should look like a little speech bubble in the top toolbar of your screen with the letters Q and A on it. YouTube is also available as an alternate viewing option this evening. Community members watching through YouTube will only be able to view the live session, but will not be able to participate in the question and answer period. To participate in question and answers, join through a desktop or laptop computer and access the Teams Town Hall through your web browser. We'll do our best to answer as many of your questions as possible during the time available tonight. To help us make the best use of our time together, we ask that questions be related to board service, the recruitment process, eligibility, expectations of the role, and the application process. This will help us stay focused on the purpose of today's event and ensure we can answer as many questions as possible. We also ask that all questions and comments remain respectful so we can maintain a constructive and welcoming discussion. As a reminder, today's session is being recorded and will be made available after the event, and we'll also have the slides posted to our board recruitment webpage. I'll now turn things over to David Mouche, LHSC Supervisor. David?
Thank you, Beth, and good evening, everybody. As Beth mentioned, LHSC is recruiting a renewed board of directors, and it's a really important next step in the organization's renewal. So since September 2024, I have had the honor of serving as supervisor of LHSC, and one of my responsibilities has been to report to the Ministry of Health and the public on the organization, including its challenges that led to me being appointed as supervisor and the work underway to strengthen LHSC. So supervision is not meant to be permanent. LHSC has made meaningful progress. And while work remains, we now are ready to begin implementing the governance structure that will support the hospital for years to come. Recruiting a renewed board will ensure we have the right structures in place to support accountability, to support transparency, and to support good decision making. So how are we improving? Well, over the past 2 years, LHSC has taken important steps to strengthen the systems and structures that support great care. This includes redesigning governance structures, strengthening board-related processes, simplifying committee structures, and developing comprehensive orientation and education programs for future board members. It also includes restoring independent internal audit oversight, expanding whistleblower reporting mechanisms, improving procurement and contracting processes, and introducing stronger financial controls. We have advanced nearly 200 recommendations from independent organizational reviews that also included feedback from staff, patients, families, and community members. This work's nowhere near complete, but we've made substantial progress, and LHSC is today fundamentally different than it was 2 years ago. There's stronger oversight, clearer accountability, more transparency, and a renewed focus on discipline execution. The board we're recruiting is not being asked to solve yesterday's problems. Those issues are being addressed. The board will focus on guiding LHSC into the next chapter while ensuring we learn from the past, though. So, to understand board service at LHSC, it helps to understand the scale and complexity of the organization. LHSC is one of the largest Canadian research-intensive acute care teaching hospitals, with an annual operating budget of approximately $2 billion, more than 17,000 staff, which includes physicians, dentists, midwives, researchers, learners, volunteers, and more than 1 million patient visits each year. LHSC not only serves London and the surrounding communities, but its reach extends beyond and across southwestern Ontario and as far as Thunder Bay. LHSC is also a learning and research environment, has more than 4,000 learners and more than 2,400 active clinical research studies. So when we talk about governance, we're talking about oversight of a very large, a very complex organization that makes a significant impact on patients, families, learners, researchers, staff, and communities. So why is now a great time to join LHSC? Well, I can tell you few volunteer board positions in Canada provide oversight of an organization of this scale, complexity, and impact. LHSC is entering a very important new chapter. We've implemented, as stated, new governance models. We've welcomed new leadership, strengthened accountability, and renewed and modernized relationships and advanced significant redevelopment projects. This is a true opportunity to shape healthcare in our region and across southwestern Ontario for decades to come. So for this board, success means delivering exceptional patient care, which it has done. It means maintaining trusted governance, supporting long-term financial sustainability, advancing innovation, and continuing to strengthen LHSC's position as one of Canada's leading academic hospitals. So when we talk about board structure and transparency, one of the most important parts of this work has been redesigning the governance structure that's going to support LHSC and when we move forward. So the renewed board structure, we tried to simplify it, is to create focused standing committees such as finance and audit, quality and safety, governance and nominating, human resources, and research. We're also restoring key academic and system partnerships directly into the governance structure through ex officio participation and collaborative engagement with partners including Western University, Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry, St. Joseph's Healthcare London, London Health Sciences Foundation, and Children's Health Foundation. Transparency and public engagement will remain central to governance moving forward. When board meetings are virtual, LHSC will continue publicly live streaming them whenever operationally possible. For in-person meetings, LHSC will continue pursuing live streaming where feasible. So you might want to ask, what does a board do? What does a hospital board do? So the role of the board is governance and oversight. So this primarily includes setting strategic direction. You're overseeing quality of care and patient safety. As a board, you're ensuring strong financial stewardship. And you're also supporting your two key employees, which is your president and CEO and your chair, head of your medical advisory committee. And you're supporting through oversight and accountability and monitoring organizational performance and risk. So board members provide governance, they provide oversight, and they provide accountability that's going to help LHSC remain focused on its mission and its long-term priorities. The board doesn't manage day-to-day operations. That's up to administration. However, the board needs to keep those individuals accountable, as stated. So rather, what a board does is it helps ensure the organization is moving in the right direction, achieving the expected outcomes for patients, families, and staff, and also the community we serve. Effective governance is one of the foundations of a strong and sustainable organization, which is why recruiting the right board is such an important step in LHSC's renewal journey. So, how do board committees support governance? One of the ways the board carries out its governance responsibility is through these standing committees. The committees allow board members to focus on specific areas of oversight, review information in much greater detail, and bring recommendations back to the full board. These committees help ensure the board has the information and recommendations it needs to make informed decisions. So each of these committees has a very clear, distinct mandate. One of the committees is called an executive committee, and it acts on behalf of the board in only exceptional circumstances when the full board cannot convene. Unfortunately, one of the problems with ineffective governance is when they lean on an executive committee too much. So in my lifetime, the only time I would use an executive committee is maybe over the summertime when the regular board after the AGM has taken a 2 months hiatus, and you needed something done or board approval and you couldn't get a quorum because board members are on vacation, then you might try to pull the executive committee together. But it's only done in very exceptional circumstances. And unfortunately, many organizations lean on them too much, and it then results in decisions being made by a very finite amount of people. You then have a finance and audit committee, and they oversee financial performance, budget, risks, internal controls, and audit activities. The quality and safety committee, that speaks for itself, focuses on quality of care, patient safety, indicators, incidents, and improvement priorities. Then you have the governance and nominating committee, and that supports board effectiveness, recruitment, skills, succession planning, and governance practices. You then have the Human Resources Committee, which oversees not only the CEO's performance, but also the organization's compensation plans, workforce strategy, labor relations, culture, wellness, and safety. We then have a Research Committee, which is providing oversight of London Health Sciences Centre Research Institute. So what that committee is going to focus on is research strategy, commercialization, talent, compliance, funding, and risk. You then have the Medical Advisory Committee, or the acronym MAC. And what that does, it's made up of the heads and chairs of the various departments. That includes your, of course, physician leaderships, dental leaderships, and midwifery leadership. And they provide oversight and recommendations related to professional staff, quality of care, credentialing, physician leadership, and clinical governance matters. What a lot of people don't realize is professional staff, being physicians, dentists, and midwives, they are not employees of a hospital. They are, quote, independent contractors, and they have credentials under the Public Hospitals Act. So if you become a board member, you're going to get a whole orientation on how that all works together as an organization in your role as a board member and approving credentials. And then we have what's called a Fiscal Advisory Committee. And this advisory committee provides advice regarding operations, staffing, resource allocations from a multidisciplinary staff perspective. So what does a board do? It happens, the board work throughout the year. So board members, in addition to being on the board and serving and having monthly board meetings, they also serve on one or more of these committees. So much of the detailed governance work, as I indicated, happens at a committee level. So committees review reports, they monitor performance, discuss emerging risks and opportunities, and bring recommendations forward for board consideration. And each committee will have created an annual work plan that's going to be signed off by the committee at their opening meeting of the year. And what that does is it outlines the work that the committee has to accomplish throughout the year, and it outlines at what meeting that these issues will be addressed. So for example, Finance and Audit Committee regularly reviews monthly, financial performance, operating and capital budgets, things like risk management, audit activities, long-term financial stability, sustainability. And these discussions, again, occur throughout a year rather than on a single point in time. The same approach applies across all committees. So each committee is going to create an annual work plan that's signed off by the board, and it helps ensure important issues receive regular oversight and the board remains focused on its priorities and responsibilities. So you might ask, why does all this matter? In reality, every family in Southwestern Ontario will rely at some point on LHSC. And the decisions made by the board today influence the care that our children receive, our grandchildren receive, and how quickly patients access treatment. And being the stewards of more than $2 billion in public resources, you're involved in the future of one of Canada's largest academic hospitals. So even though board members clearly don't deliver care at bedside, their decisions shape how care is delivered across LHSC. And that's why strong governance is very important. Again, it supports accountability, transparency, and the long-term success of LHSC. And that's why community partnership and participation matters. The board should reflect the communities LHSC serves and help ensure teams are supported in the work they do every day. So who are we seeking? We're seeking you. We want community-minded leaders who want to make a meaningful contribution. It includes people with experience in governance and senior leadership, strong integrity and judgment, and a commitment to public service. We're encouraging applications from leaders across the public, the private, the not-for-profit, academic, Indigenous, and community sectors. We're also looking for individuals who can bring different experiences, perspectives, and expertise. And at the same time, we want individuals who have lived experiences. This is an opportunity to bring your perspective, your skills, your experience, and it's helping shape the future of healthcare in our community. So you might want to look at areas of expertise, and that's a broad mix. That's what makes a board strong, is to have a strong background of individuals. And the areas listed are on this slide, and they're intended to illustrate the broad range of expertise. And clearly, no one person's expected to check off all these boxes. That's impossible. That person doesn't exist. So the goal is to build a well-rounded board with a collective expertise and judgment needed to oversee a large academic health sciences center. Community representation matters. So we're intentionally building a board that includes diverse perspectives, diverse backgrounds, and, as stated, lived experiences. Professional expertise is important, but lived experience is equally valuable as well. So the experiences of patients, families, caregivers, community advocates, and people from different backgrounds help strengthen board discussion and decision-making. And we know diverse perspectives lead to strong decisions and better outcomes and more inclusive care for people we serve. So what do you need to know before you apply? So before you decide whether to apply or not, it's important to understand the commitment involved. It's significant. It's a volunteer commitment. Board members at hospitals and many not-for-profits across Ontario, across Canada, they're not paid. Your commitment can be upwards. At the start, it's probably going to be more, but it'll level out to about 10 to 20 hours per month. And this includes attending board committee meetings, preparation for them, and engagement activities. So you're expected to review materials in advance. You don't show up to meetings and just open up your package or open up your documents, your PDF at the start of the meeting. We expect you to be prepared showing up to the meeting, because what happens when you're prepared, you're actively participating in discussions, you're asking questions, you're getting information, and you're contributing to effective governance and decision-making. So we're not simply looking for people who just want to attend board meetings. We're looking for people who want to ask good questions, who want to make thoughtful decisions, who want to support and work with management appropriately, and help ensure London Health Sciences Centre continues to earn the trust of the patients, the families, the staff, the physicians, the dentists, the midwives, the learners, the researchers, the volunteers, donors, and communities we serve. LHSC is going to provide orientation to board members. It's going to provide onboarding, going to provide ongoing governance education in support of board members in their role. It's a big commitment, truly is, but it also is an opportunity to make a significant contribution to the future of care in our community. So how do you apply? Hopefully it's simple and pretty straightforward. You start by visiting LHSC's board recruitment webpage to review eligibility. We have it outlined. You think boxes you got to check to make sure you're eligible. Some are by bylaws, some are by, statutory laws. It outlines the role requirements, the expectations of service, and the application instructions. You're also asked to provide a cover letter along with a resume or CV. So applications can be submitted online. So for individuals who don't have access to the online form, they can also be emailed, sent by mail, or actually dropped off at the hospital. So applications are open now, but only until the end of July. So you have a couple more weeks to put in your application or to tap that friend on the shoulder and say, hey, you know what you would make is a great board member at LHSC. Put your application in. So what's going to happen after July 31st? I have a group of governance experts that are going to review the applicants individually. We're going to rank them and score them. And then including our patient partners are going to be involved in that process. So the goal is to build a strong, well-rounded board that reflects the skills, experiences, and perspectives needed to support LHSC's future. And the recruitment approach is skills-based, and it's aligned with LHSC's priorities. But at the same time, we're reflecting a commitment to transparency, accountability, equity, diversity, and inclusion. What's going to happen is selected board members will be interviewed. Then those individuals who are successful in the interviews will be asked to join the board, and they are going to be doing some heavy orientation starting in the fall and onboarding to make their board experience a success. So it's more than a position. At LHSC, great people lead great care. So a seat at the board table is more than just taking a position. It's a voice, it's a responsibility, and it's a chance to really shape care for generations of patients, staff, and communities for, as stated, generations to come. So the decisions made at this table are going to have a real impact. And this is your opportunity to help guide decisions that affect care, people, and the future of the community. I'm now going to pause here and turn things back to Beth for questions that people might have.
Thank you, David. We'll now move into the moderated question and answer portion of today's session. If you are joining through the Microsoft Teams Town Hall format, please submit your questions using the Q&A feature. Questions will be reviewed and read aloud for David to address, and we'll answer as many questions as we can during the session this evening. To help make best use of our time together, we'll be focusing on questions related to today's session, including board service, recruitment process, eligibility, expectations of the role, and the application process. And as a reminder, YouTube viewers are able to watch the session live, but are not able to participate in the Q&A. If you would like to participate, please join via a desktop or laptop computer on that Microsoft Teams Town Hall link. So we'll pop over and see, we've got our first question here, David. With respect to the evaluation of board candidates, is there a nominating committee in place to do so? And what process is followed? How many board members are being recruited?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. Thanks, Beth. So the first tranche of board members is going to be 8. So, and the reason for that is board members serve generally by legislation 3 terms of 3 years each. So in total, 9 years. What you want to make sure is you have effective turnover of board members. Not everyone leaves at once. So you try to spread that out. And the way to do that when we're starting a new board is we're going to start with 8 selected board members. As we move forward, yes, as the board then starts adding board members, as stated, we have the governance and nominating committee. What will happen is the board will do like they do now is did an ad, and you'll put an ad out and say LHSC is looking to recruit board members or individuals to committees, and I'll talk about that in a second. Individuals to committees, and they're asking for people to apply, and they have an application process, and then it's up to the board to have a process in place to do exactly what technically I'm doing right now. Is you get the applications in, you review them, you set people up for interviews, you have the interviews, and you decide who you're going to invite onto the board. Now, moving forward, the bylaws specifically state that future board members after the first group are going to have to serve on a committee first before they join the board or are invited to join the board. The reason for that is threefold. Number one, it's a best practice. And it's a best practice because what it does is it gives the individual, instead of jumping right into a complex $2 billion organization, it gets them on a committee and gets basically stick their toes in the water, get their feet wet to try to understand over a year or two what this organization is all about. It's a complex organization. It's respecting someone's volunteer time, but it's giving them a snapshot into, okay, what is this about? And getting them used to the organization and seeing if they want to commit or put their name forward to be on a board for up to, like I said, 9 years, if not more. At the same time, it gives the board an opportunity to see, who is this person? Are they showing up to meetings? Are they participating? Are they coming prepared? So it's a way of both sides appreciating this is something I really am interested in, but I'm going to take it slow and I'm going to get there, and it'll take me a year or two. And then you apply to be on the board, and then the board will look at the individuals to determine which one of their committee members that they've had on their committees will become board members. So again, it's a best practice that's followed. It works very well. And in large part, sometimes it avoids a situation that a person is just applying to be on the LHSC board to stack their CV. Don't need those individuals either. We want people who are committed here for the right reasons, which is to advance healthcare in the region and help support top academic hospital across Canada.
Thank you, David. And perhaps as we wait for a few more questions to trickle in here, I might ask you some questions that were some of the more common questions that we received earlier this afternoon when we hosted our first information session. So as a segue from the great first question we had here, what is the expected tenure of board members who might be applying?
Yeah, so as under the Public Hospitals Act, it is three-year terms for up to 9 years. You're not mandated to stay all 9 years. You can quit whenever you want. But generally, the goal is to, when you come forward, and life takes over sometimes and you have no choice but to quit. Is you serve out that term. Arguably, you could stay longer if you're put into a higher position, meaning like vice chair or chair. You can continue to serve those positions past the 9 years under the bylaws. So I've been around where some people have served upwards of 16 years on a board of directors. And then, when I first started in healthcare, when I first joined a hospital, we had tons of turnover of board members. And that's tough, not having the consistency at the board level. And it does help to have that consistency because by, the third, fourth, fifth year, they really start hitting their track and doing very well and understanding the organization, understanding how it works, having some history with respect to how decisions were made and seeing the outcome of those decisions and seeing what worked and didn't work, and learning from that as a board member. So you really want to keep people on. And as my career developed, I was lucky enough to have boards that pretty much to a person, short of personal issues that took over their life, stayed on for the 9 years and plus in some circumstances. So that makes for some strong governance and strong boards when you have a group that can stick together like that and provide that volunteer service. And it's very fulfilling for them because then they can see things come to fruition and see results. And it's pretty exciting when, they can make a decision and see it being implemented and see the outcomes and track the outcomes and see the benefits to patients. That's pretty exciting stuff. And for them to be a part of that is pretty outstanding for a board member and their volunteer service.
Thanks, David. When do you expect the first board meeting to be held?
So the first board meeting officially, from a quote public board meeting session, will be most likely in early 2027. But that doesn't mean that if you apply now, you're never going to hear from us. You apply now, those individuals who are going to be selected for interviews will be contacted probably in sometime in August. Interviews will take place most likely, sometime in September-ish. And then once individuals are asked to join the board and they do join the board, then we're going to have a pretty extensive orientation process. And it's not just going to be the orientation amongst the 8 board members. That's clearly going to be part of it, is to learn about the role, their role, them to, because a lot of them might not know each other. So they got to learn about each other. Who is this person? Who's Bob? Who's Nancy? Who's Frank? And to get to know each other that way. And then at the same time, then they're going to be oriented with the vice presidents and with the chairs and heads of the various physician, dental, and midwifery leadership. And because that's your team. That's your quote leadership team as an organization, is to have that administrative and clinical. Those are the people the board they're going to see more than that, but those are the people they're going to be working very closely with. And successful boards, yes, board deals with governance, then you have the operations. But those two got to work together and row in the same direction and move the organization forward. And that's when a successful organization really hits its stride, is when both administratively on a board side, they're working together, they're asking tough questions constructively, they're being professional about it, but they're working together in order to get to that outcome of quality patient care and a focus on our staff and our community. Again, it's not only orientation amongst the board members for them to learn individually, to get to know each other, but also to get to know who are these VP people, who are these chairs, heads of departments that I'm going to come across are going to be presenting to me with respect to ideas and concepts, and who are these people. So it's learning what their jobs are, what they do, what they're responsible for, and finding where your lane is with respect to what you're responsible for.
Thanks, David. I would note we're getting down to our last few questions here. So if you do happen to have a question, please do pop it into that Q&A chat as we answer the remaining questions here in the forum. David, when will the recruitment of the next tier of directors begin?
I'll leave it up. I'll be working with the board when they do come on the 8th, again, to do the orientation, but I'll probably be into the second year type of idea. Again, it's to promote that rotation so we can kind of build it in. So if people do serve their 9 years, we're building in that we're not losing everybody at once, and you try to space it out as best you can. So it's going to be a little more difficult at the start, but we'll phase it in and work that in as we move forward.
Great. Thank you, David. And a final question here. Who is the board accountable to?
Well, technically, the board's accountable to the organization itself. Board members are accountable to LHSC, which is a standalone corporation. So that's first and foremost. And then at the same time, as board members, as the corporation, there's 2 main bodies which regulate healthcare in Ontario, and that's going to be the Ministry of Health, that under legislation the board is accountable to with respect to the minister and the ministry offices. And at the same time, there's a bureaucratic body called Ontario Health, and the board's LHSC signs a lot of various agreements with Ontario Health, accountability agreements, funding agreements, all sorts of different agreements with respect to Ontario Health that LHSC will have to sign. So, and at the same time, a board of directors, in large part for LHSC, is clearly accountable to its staff and its community it serves. But that's kind of the org chart.
Great. Thanks very much for breaking that down for us this evening, David. So I will note that does come to the end of our questions. For everyone tuning in this evening or anyone who may be watching this recording, I would note that we did have an earlier information session at 12 noon today that is posted to our YouTube channel, where we did have a few other questions and some different questions as well. So if you are looking to gain some more information, I would encourage you to turn into that recording on our YouTube channel. And with that, David, I will pass it over to see if you would like to provide any closing remarks this evening.
Thanks, Beth. Yes, Beth, one of the closing remarks I want to provide is this. Again, if you're interested, apply. If you know someone who is interested or you think would make a good board member, tap them on the shoulder. Apply. So many times you kind of hear about things that, well, they'll never get picked, or it's a waste of time. You know, it's a bunch of lawyers or accountants that are going to be on the board. No. Again, we're looking for a broad, diverse backgrounds in our community. We want our board to reflect the community we serve. I stated earlier, I'm a lawyer by background. The last thing we want is 8 lawyers. No disrespect to lawyers, but 8 lawyers make for a complicated room. So at the same time, too, we don't want board members that are thinking, hey, I'm going to go join that board because I want to go learn about that fraud stuff. I want to go figure all that out. I want to get deep into that. You know what? That's a rabbit hole that I'm in. You don't want to go down, and that's not the role of the board. We're going to learn from the past. We're going to make sure we don't repeat the past. But again, the people who are there at the hospital now, they're not the people that committed all that stuff. They're gone. Okay. The people who are there now are committed to moving this organization forward, and they need all the support in the world. And the last thing we need is a board saying, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell that, I'm going to fix that administration. They're gone. Okay. So that doesn't mean you don't hold the current administration accountable, ask them tough questions. But if you're thinking they're part of this, they're not. Okay. All those people are gone, and they were a small, finite amount of people, and they're out of here. So we got to focus on moving this organization forward. And if you're interested, please apply. If you know someone who you think would make a good board member, tap them on the shoulder and have them apply. But thank you for all your support in this community, and we'll get through this. And like I said, we're not going to let a few rotten apples ruin a very strong core of people here at LHSC. That's it, Beth.
Thanks very much, David. That will conclude this evening's virtual information session, and we wish you all a very good evening.
Thank you. Thanks, Beth.